What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully, you guys have a great day so far. I'm really liking these daily fresh champion releases here. As you guys can see, but right behind me, we got a brand new champion, the all familiar lion. Not just any lion, it's the Cowardly Lion here. And of course, it's going to be part of the Echoes of Oz campaign. In this video here, we're going to be talking about the full kit for this champion, and we'll give our first analysis and thoughts on everything. But first, a little bit of Plarium commentary. What do they have to say about this champion? Any additional info? I'm going to put it up on screen right now. And it says, hey, folks, next Wednesday, August 19th, we're planning to launch a mixed fusion event of a new Echoes of Oz champion, the Cowardly Lion. All right, guys, so that's some pretty big news here. So this is going to be the upcoming fusion champion starting on the 19th. It's going to be a mixed fusion, meaning that completing this fusion will give you one of the fusion exchange tokens. Another word for a mixed fusion is also called a hybrid fusion. In this fusion, you'll be collecting fragments to build up epics, and then you'll have to level up those epics to 50, fully ascend them, and then fuse those epics into the fusion legendary champion here. I would say this is a little bit more of a punishing event compared to a traditional fusion. Considering that a traditional fusion, you can kind of have a small chance of pulling the rare champion from a shard, whereas in a mixed fusion or a hybrid fusion, you have to actually get the fragments to build the epic. So there's no lucking out into a rare. Just in case, for example, if you needed to save your fusion, you can't really luck into a rare to save your fusion. And there's no real other way to get any more fragments unless there's extra fragments in the fusion plan. We don't know what the fusion plan looks like at this moment. It's going to be a Skinwalker champion. He's legendary and he's defense-based magic affinity. Cool. I mean, I kind of don't like it that he is a Skinwalker, but of course it makes sense for him to be a Skinwalker. And he's defense based, which means he's going to be sharing gear with Marius. A small bummer there. Let's see what Plarium has to say about this champion. The Cowardly Lion is a fearless damage dealer who makes his opponents the ones trembling in fear, excelling in both PvP and PvE. He supports his team with reflect damage and counter attacks. Fear and True Fear debuffs are no match for him. Every attempt to land these debuffs only emboldens the Cowardly Lion, allowing him to reset his cooldowns and takes an extra turn to punish his opponents. There is nothing cowardly about this lion, and even less that can stop him. Awesome. I mean, it sounds crazy. Let's take a closer look at his overall kit and see if he's actually going to be worth our time. All right, guys, here we go. We got the full kit review here. Let's check out this guy's kit. Leo 9 Pounce. His A1 is a triple hit A1. That's amazing. The damage inflicted by this skill increases by 10% for each skill successfully activated by allies and enemies under fear or true fear debuffs up to 100%. So 10 allies or enemies have to activate skills while they're under fear or true fear. It takes a little while to probably get this through, considering you have to land the fears and then the enemies or your allies have to take the turns. But this should get capped out in most situations. Each hit steals 5% of the target's turn meter. That's cool. 15% of the turn meter gets stolen. Nice damage here. 30% damage from 3 books. That's good to see. Let's move on to the A2 Primal Roar. On a 4-turn cooldown, fully books down to a 3-turn cooldown. AoE attack before attacking. Self-buffs himself with increase, defense, and fervor. That's awesome. These are 2 damage boosting buffs for himself, but they're actually not just for himself, they're actually for the whole team, which is also very amazing. And a non-conditional ignore, 20% ignore defense. Amazing. Also has a 100% chance of placing true fear on all enemies for 2 turns. This is a really good ability. Lots of stuff packed into it on a 3-turn cooldown. It's an AoE attack. He buffs his whole team with increased defense, so he's going to get a damage boost from that. Fervor also is going to be a damage boost for himself as well as his entire team. And then the flat 20% ignore defense on this ability without any conditions. I like it. Thumbs up. 3-turn cooldown. Also has some CC baked into it with the True Fear. Very, very strong AoE ability. Fervor, if you guys don't know, is going to give him a 10% damage boost. as well as some damage reduction as well. Very, very strong buff. So yeah, very good A2. I like it. Let's check out the A3 here. Strength in the pack. 5-turn cooldown, books down to a 3-turn cooldown. Places counterattack and reflect damage on your whole team. That's cool. I mean, not too crazy by itself, but there's a passive effect. While under these buffs from this champion, allies will ignore shield, strength, and buffs when counterattacking. Allies will also ignore shield buffs when reflecting damage. Okay, I would like to see how effective this is at killing stuff. I don't know how strong the reflect damage is. I don't think it's going to be too significant. Counterattack can be very annoying, also very impactful. This is on a 3-turn cooldown, going through shields and strengthen only when counterattacking. This ability I think is okay. Maybe if he had like an extra turn mechanic here, that would be really, really nice. But it's a good support ability. I wouldn't say it's insane or anything like that on first glance. But definitely you can get some value from this. Let's check out his passive here. True Courage. Active effect on a 4-turn cooldown. Whenever a fear or true fear is placed on this champion, removes all debuffs from this champion, resets all cooldowns, and activates an instant turn on this champion. That is freaking sweet. It's on a 4-turn cooldown, unfortunately, but this is a really, really sweet ability. And instantly you think about where fears are coming from in the meta nowadays for PvP. And you look no further than champions like Fabian, for example, probably the most popular fear champion. This guy is going to benefit from those fears that he places. Passive effect. Whenever this champion is under fear or true fear, their skills are always will always activate. Sorry. It's a little bit different because that means he's going to be under the fear and true fear, but then he can still use his abilities, which is kind of interesting. Could be helpful for some situations, for example, like masteries that boost his damage if he's under debuffs or anything like that. It also helps power up his A1, I guess, because the fear is on him, but he can still do his stuff. That means that his A1 is going to get powered up. What else? Second part of his passive ability increases the chance of enemy skills not activating when they are under fear or true fear debuffs by 15%. So when enemies are under fear or true fear, it's buffed up to 65% chance of failing. Fear and true fear have a 50% chance of failing. That's just the flat baseline. So here is an additional 15% for the enemies to fail activating their skills. Very, very cool. He is landing True Fear, which is the bigger version of the fear. True Fear means that if you fail to activate your skill, that skill goes on cooldown. Very, very crippling ability if it actually stops you from doing your skill. And that looks like it's going to be it. No aura for this guy, the Cowardly Lion. Let's take a look at this guy's kit as a whole. Here is A1, I think is very, very good. It's a triple hit A1, can be useful in many areas, mainly for damage. This one, right, you get an additional 100% damage here, and it should be able to stack up relatively easily. He does place fear in his kit, and then he has a turn meter steal here. So he's going to be really good against like normal Fire Knight for progression accounts. His A2 is awesome. Team-wide increased defense, team-wide fervor buff. Keep in mind, fervor buff is plus 10% defense and then 10% damage mitigation. And then he also CCs, crowd controls them with True Fear for 2 turns. Awesome, awesome. Needs accuracy on this, so this is a little bit of a drawback, of course. And then his A3, full team counterattack with a reflect damage. Additional bonuses here with the passive effect, allowing your allies to ignore shield and strengthen when counterattacking and ignoring shields with reflect damage. It's an interesting ability. You don't really see these two together very often, counterattack and reflect damage. Perhaps this champion could even be used maybe in Chimera, landing fears. He has increased defense, he has counterattack, he has reflect damage. Perhaps, maybe. This instant effect is very nice. This instant turn effect when fear lands on him. It's very nice, but it's a 4-turn cooldown, unfortunately. Would have been nicer if it was a bit of a shorter cooldown, making him a real counter against enemies with fear. His passive, also very interesting. Not being immune to fear means that fear can land on himself, which means that if you lock out his passive, he will have fear on himself, and then he will be feared. So there's some good and bad about it, but it's probably a net neutral kind of benefit. But in this case, it does synergize with his kit because if he has Fear on, he can buff up his A1, which is really cool. Now, in terms of how to build this champion, he's a damage dealer, right? So it really comes down to how much damage he's going to be able to put out. I like that he has increased defense. I like that he has fervor, and then unconditional 20% ignore defense. 20% ignore defense is good. It's not crazy. So I don't expect him to hit crazy hard. He also only has one AoE and one A1. His A3 is not an attack, unfortunately, but you know what? He's going to get counterattack on himself. He's going to be super annoying and all that stuff. And if his multipliers are good, then, you know, he can chip in for some damage. Can he be your main damage dealer? I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how this champion is going to work in PvP content. First glance, I don't really see him being like the main guy for anybody's PvP squad, like any end game or late game kind of account. He is somewhat of a counter to fear champions, but he doesn't have any kind of, you know, cheat death or any kind of survivability. No unkillable, no block damage, no prevent fatal hit kind of stuff. So I don't really see him being like a main damage dealer. Maybe he might be a counter pick to somebody, maybe against Fabian, since he has positive affinity against Fabian, and then he can take advantage of his fears. But you know, if he's locked out, then he's still going to get locked out and he's not going to be able to do too much unless the fears pop off and then the active effect on his passive actually triggers. In that case, you know, maybe against Fabian, maybe he works. Maybe he works, you know, you get him back with the instant turn, all his stuff is off cooldown, and then he primal roars, swipes the enemy, and then kills everybody. That could be a possibility, right? Could be. What if his multipliers are not great? You know what? He does land 4 buffs team-wide. Why not something like a 9-piece protection set? Let him be a support champion. Let him land fears. Let him buff up, you know, everybody on your team with his buffs, and then of course with a 9-piece protection set can give them some additional damage. And then maybe, you know, he can be useful in somewhere like Hydra, right? Because he's going to get feared occasionally by the hit of Torment, and then he's going to get that instant turn. And then maybe he can chip in that way. So we're not going to be certain about how to build this guy out until we actually see him in action and until we actually see his multipliers and all that. Personally speaking, I think he's a good champion. I don't necessarily think he's going to be the best champion like that for end game accounts. But for early game accounts, I think he's definitely going to be very good. His A2 is actually very strong. I really like it. Unfortunately, it does require accuracy in his kit, and he doesn't have any accuracy relief. It's also unfortunate that he shares, you know, defense-based accessories. He's in the same faction as Marius. So, you know, you might not have enough for both champions. But I like him. I like him enough. I like him enough that I think he's a good champ. I think he's missing a little bit to be top tier. Like I said, maybe an extra turn mechanic on kill, maybe some kind of cheat death mechanic, for example, just to give him some extra oomph. Now we're slowly starting to see some of these more champions coming up with the Echoes of Oz. You know, there could be potential synergies with multiples of them put together. Right now, we're not too sure. We don't have the full scope of everything. So there's definitely some combinations of them that, you know, could potentially be very good, but we're not aware of right now. So with that being said, that's going to be it for this video, guys. The Cowardly Lion, our upcoming hybrid fusion starting on August 19th. That's next Wednesday. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about his kit. Let me know how you guys would use him. If you guys are enjoying the content, make sure you guys like and subscribe for future content and future updates. Appreciate you all watching until the end. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.